Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at the Jonsered, what model is this bad boy? CS2236T, which is the same as the Husqvarna T435 and the Redmax GZ3500T. This customer brought this saw in complaining that the throttle didn't work and the kill switch didn't work. And then he also may have revealed that he pinched the saw in his last cut. So I pretty much right away know what's going on here because I've seen this before. It's just interesting when customers describe their complaint when you know what the real answer is already. So when he says the throttle doesn't work, naturally you want to look at throttle linkage. But what he means is that there's no throttle response. And that's because this saw's got a huge air leak right now. But just for giggles, we're going to first take a look at the no kill switch complaint. And if this guy gets this thing taken apart here, we'll put the meter on there and see if the switch is working or not. So this is the third in a series, I guess, of videos of me at work with the camera mounted over the bench. How do you like them? They're easy enough for me to record. I just push a button and there's my media for the next next video. Yeah, that's what I meant. So it looks like this kill switch is working here. What the hell? Why would he even make that complaint that the kill switch didn't work? I don't quite understand that one. But we're just gonna take a look in the cylinder and make sure that it's clean and not scored. Because I already suspect what the problem is. I don't know how long the saw was able to run under these conditions. And I want to make sure that the cylinder is clean. Plus, I've been burned in the past. I've done repairs on equipment and then during the test run have issues only to find that the cylinder was scored the whole time. So it is now one of my priorities. If I'm going to do any kind of repair at all, I make sure that it's a worthwhile effort to do it. So we'll put the spark plug back in here and get it torqued down to spec. I think this would be just about one ugga-dugga click. Alright. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So tell me what you think about these videos. I mean, I like doing them. This narrating is necessary because I have to edit out a lot of the audio on some of them. There's music playing in the background or there's interruptions. So for you guys that have worked on these things before, right here, you know what I'm looking at. This is what I'm showing you. That rubber intake boot, if you know what you're looking at, you can tell that it has pulled out of the plastic housing and it's no longer sandwiched between the carburetor and the plastic mounting plate of the carburetor. This guy pinched the saw and then yanked on it so hard to get it unpinched that he actually stretched it to the point of pulling that boot out from under the carb. Now I make it sound like this is some crazy thing that only he's ever done, but in reality I've done this before a number of times, and it's almost always just a matter of putting it back together. The anti-vibe springs most of the times aren't stretched, some once in a while, but usually not. So we pop the carb off of here, and here you can see the boot. It's only partially where it's supposed to be. There I'm showing you. It's not up on top, and once we put it in place you'll see better what I'm talking about. There's a little bit more of a shot of it. Once it's put together properly, you'll get a good idea of why this is screwed up. So I'm going to use my handy dandy plastic pry bars here so I don't tear the boot. And this is why I wanted to look into the cylinder and make sure that it wasn't scored, because it obviously ran lean at least a little while. Maybe it was only seconds and it wouldn't run at all. I didn't even try and start it before I started the repair. But here we're getting the boot put back into place. And it's a little deformed from being, wedged out of place. It had a couple of little creases in the face of it. After it sat here for a few minutes in its proper position, it all came back into shape, and I'm sure we'll be fine. Boy, that guy does nice work. Alright, we're going to bolt the carburetor back on, or at least get the carburetor in place and then hook the link and jump. It's pretty simple. I mean, if you looked at it when you took it apart, it'll go together easy enough. The rod goes into the top of the trigger there. There's only one hole you can put it in. And then the kill wires from the switch have a little, well, there's a special spot that they ride in, and it's obvious where they go. Here you'll see the spot where the operator presence lever, where the spring sits in it from the kill switch, keeps tension on that lever so that, it springs back and forth. Oh, there, I just noticed that there was some dirt building up on top of the oil tank vent, so I cleaned that off. So now the front of this handle, you'll see there's a little notch there. We just drop the top piece into that notch, and then there's just going to be one screw that holds it down in place in the back. We'll run that screw home. Little function check there. Trigger seems to be working normal. Now we'll bolt the carburetor down. Whenever I'm doing carburetor screws, I don't use the power tool for the final torque. I always try to do it by feel with the hand tool. I guess maybe I stripped a few, being too aggressive. You learn. Just taking a quick look and making sure that that carburetor is actually flush on the red plastic mounting plate and not standing proud anywhere where it won't have a good seal. We'll snap our air filter back in place and throw the air filter cover on. These plastic air conductor, I think that's what they're called, air conductors. Anyway, they direct the air from the flywheel over the fins of the cylinder. And they're usually pretty thin, flimsy plastic. You can see this one's just not sitting on there right. They will sit perfectly flush and flat and not bounce around when you have them in the right position. So keep manipulating it till you get it there. Yeah, I like to try and do these in as little takes as possible, but I tell you what, there's a lot of interruptions on one project like this. I probably got interrupted 10 times. You gotta help a customer up front, or go load some bark mulch, or answer the telephone, whatever it is. A guy gets sidetracked pretty easy, so trying harder and harder lately to stay organized, and making these videos has helped because I try to keep just one project on top of my bench at a time now, which is probably what I should be doing anyway, but if there's one screw laying there, I know it came from this project and I got to figure out where it went. We'll put our handle back on, and on the bottom down by the anti-vibe spring there's also going to be a limiting strap that goes on there, so don't forget to put that piece in. So one last look at the anti-vibe springs. I want to make sure there's not too much travel or too much play, that they didn't get stretched. This is pretty much normal for these springs right here. That one on the bottom actually has a pin that limits its travel, but I suspect he had this pinched and pulled it sideways. So we're going to test our work right now. There you go. Thanks for watching. Later.